Copy that, I said into my phone, then hung up on what would be the last normal conversation of my career at Titan Defense Systems. My name is Braden Reynolds. I'm 51 years old, and until 1847 hours yesterday, I was the senior operations chief managing 3 defense manufacturing facilities in Detroit that cranked out $850 million worth of military hardware annually for the Pentagon. 18 years in the Navy taught me logistics, and another 15 years at Titan taught me that keeping American soldiers supplied with reliable equipment isn't just a job, it's a mission. What I didn't expect was for some 29-year-old Stanford MBA named Colton Pierce to decide that my 2 decades of military experience was legacy thinking that needed immediate digital disruption during my daughter's birthday dinner. The call that ended everything came at 19:30 hours on a Tuesday while I was helping my wife Casey set up decorations for Brooke's 14th birthday party. Our older daughter Paige was home from her junior year, and we were having one of those rare family moments that actually felt normal. The laptop was open on the kitchen counter showing real-time production metrics from all 3 facilities, Detroit, Maine, Sterling Heights, and Warren, because defense contractors don't get to shut off operational awareness just because it's family time. When a Marine unit in Kandahar needs replacement hydraulic systems for their armored vehicles, they don't care if it's Tuesday night in suburban Detroit. Braden, this is Colton. I need to discuss an immediate organizational restructuring that affects your position. Pierce's voice had that particular Silicon Valley tone that makes everything sound like a TED Talk, even terminations. Casey looked up from the birthday banner she was hanging, caught my expression, and mouthed work. I nodded and stepped into my home office, still watching the production dashboards on my phone. What kind of restructuring, Colton? I asked, though my gut was already running threat assessment protocols. Your position as senior operations chief is being eliminated effective immediately. We're implementing AI-driven manufacturing optimization under our new VP of Digital Operations, Madison Torres. She brings cutting-edge automation expertise that aligns with our Digital Transformation Initiative. Digital Transformation Initiative. Corporate speak for we hired someone cheaper who's never been inside a manufacturing facility. I checked my watch, 1932 hours. 3 facilities running night shifts, 2 critical Pentagon delivery deadlines in the next 72 hours, and this kid wants to discuss organizational restructuring during active operations. Colton, I'm currently monitoring a time-sensitive armor plating delivery for Marine units rotating out of Camp Lejeune. Can this conversation wait until 0800 tomorrow? I'm afraid not. The transition needs to be implemented immediately for maximum efficiency. Madison is standing by to assume operational control. Standing by, like this was some kind of military handoff instead of corporate suicide. Has Madison been briefed on current production schedules and Pentagon specifications? She's reviewed our digital infrastructure and identified multiple optimization opportunities. Her MIT background in manufacturing automation makes her uniquely qualified to modernize our legacy processes. Legacy processes. That would be the systems I'd built over 15 years that took our operational efficiency from 71% to 93% while maintaining 0 defect rates on military contracts, apparently saving the company roughly $180 million in waste and delays qualified as legacy thinking now. Colton, defense manufacturing isn't something you optimize with algorithms. We're dealing with military specifications, classified materials, Pentagon delivery windows that don't accept delays. Braden, I appreciate your dedication, but we have full confidence in our digital transition strategy. Madison brings fresh perspective to operational challenges that may have become overly complex under traditional management. Traditional management, 18 years coordinating Navy supply chains, then another 15 years building the most reliable defense manufacturing operation in the Great Lakes region. But sure, let's call that traditional. When does this transition take effect? Immediately. We need you to transfer all access credentials and operational authority to Madison by 2,200 hours tonight. I looked at my phone showing real-time alerts from all 3 facilities. Equipment diagnostics, supplier coordination flags, quality control checkpoints, Pentagon liaison communications, dozens of decisions that needed someone who understood how defense contracts actually work, not how they look on a spreadsheet. Copy that, I said. Do you need me to brief Madison on current operational status? That won't be necessary. She prefers to assess situations independently rather than inherit previous management assumptions. Previous management assumptions, like knowing which suppliers had security clearances for classified components, which equipment protocols the Pentagon actually required versus what looked good on paper, and which delivery schedules had zero flexibility because Marines don't accept excuses when their equipment doesn't show up. I'll transfer credentials within the hour. Excellent. HR will handle administrative details tomorrow. The line went dead at 1937 hours. 5 minutes to eliminate 15 years of institutional knowledge while 3 defense facilities were running active production for military units that needed their equipment to work when lives depended on it. I walked back to the kitchen where Casey was lighting candles on Brooke's cake. She took one look at my face and knew what happened. Got relieved of duty. They're bringing in someone with digital expertise. Casey put down the lighter. After 22 years of marriage, she could read my tactical assessments. During active operations, apparently algorithms can manage Pentagon contracts better than experience. My phone started buzzing with notifications from plant supervisors needing guidance on overnight production decisions. Messages I was no longer authorized to answer for operations I was no longer responsible for managing. I turned off the alerts and helped my daughter blow out her birthday candles. Whatever happened next was Madison Torres's responsibility. The first crisis hit at 0623 hours. My personal phone started ringing with calls from plant supervisors who had my direct number for emergencies but apparently couldn't reach Madison Torres for operational decisions. I let them go to voicemail. By 0730 hours, I had 8 missed calls and 14 text messages from various facility managers, ranging from shift supervisors asking about equipment protocols to quality control specialists needing clarification on Pentagon specifications. All questions that should have been directed to Madison Torres, but apparently weren't being answered. At 0847 hours, Colton Pierce called my personal line. Braden, we're experiencing some operational coordination issues that require your immediate assistance. Good morning, Colton. I'm no longer employed by Titan as of 1930 hours yesterday. You'll need to coordinate through Madison Torres. Madison is having some difficulty getting oriented with our legacy systems. We need you to come in and assist with the transition. Legacy systems, the production coordination networks that kept 3 facilities synchronized with Pentagon delivery schedules that had zero tolerance for delays. Colton, you terminated my position for digital transformation reasons. I'm not available for transition assistance. This would be emergency consulting work. We're prepared to offer premium rates for immediate support. Premium rates for fixing problems that wouldn't exist if they hadn't fired the person who prevented them. I'm not available for consulting work. Not available. Braden. We're talking about significant compensation for helping resolve a temporary situation. I'm not available because I've accepted a position elsewhere. Phoenix Defense Systems offered me Chief Operations Officer with responsibility for expanding their Pentagon contract portfolio. The silence told me everything. Phoenix was Titan's primary competitor for Great Lakes defense manufacturing, and they just hired away the person who knew Titan's operational vulnerabilities better than anyone in the industry. Braden, surely we can discuss terms that would compete with any other offer. Colton, yesterday you fired me during my daughter's birthday party for digital efficiency reasons. Today you're offering premium consulting rates to fix the problems that decision created. Phoenix Defense understands something Titan apparently doesn't. Operational expertise isn't overhead you eliminate, it's competitive advantage you invest in. The complete collapse took exactly 18 hours. Madison Torres' attempt to optimize production schedules with AI algorithms had created what we call in the military a cascading failure. She'd tried to increase efficiency by running all 3 facilities at maximum capacity simultaneously, not understanding that Detroit, Maine produced specialized components that Sterling Heights required for their assembly processes, while Warren manufactured the testing equipment both other facilities needed for quality control. When you break those coordination dependencies, you don't get optimization. You get 3 expensive facilities producing components that don't integrate for delivery schedules that no longer align with Pentagon requirements. My former assistant, Jordan Walsh, called my personal phone at 15:34 hours with details that confirmed my worst operational assessments. Braden, I probably shouldn't be calling, but the situation here is completely foobar. Madison's been in crisis meetings all day, and nobody knows how to coordinate the facilities. What's the current operational status? All 3 plants are basically shut down. Detroit, Maine can't finish the Marine Corps delivery. Sterling Heights scrapped an entire production run, and Warren's quality control is backed up for days. But Madison keeps saying she needs time to recalibrate the optimization algorithms. While $850 million worth of defense manufacturing infrastructure sat idle, because the person who understood military logistics had been replaced by someone who thought Pentagon contracts could be managed like a software deployment. Has anyone notified the Pentagon about delivery delays? That's the worst part. Madison says we should wait until the algorithms stabilize before informing military liaisons. But Braden, we're talking about Marines who need their equipment before rotation. Marines don't accept excuses when their equipment doesn't arrive. They accept resignation letters from defense contractors who can't fulfill their obligations. Jordan, I appreciate the update, but I'm not in a position to provide guidance. I know it's just everyone's asking what you would do. What I would do was exactly what I'd done for 15 years. Coordinate between facilities, communicate with Pentagon liaisons, manage military delivery schedules, and maintain the operational discipline that kept everything synchronized. But Colt and Pierce had decided that discipline was legacy thinking that needed disruption. By 1400 hours that same day, all three facilities were operating at less than 30% capacity with production schedules that violated multiple Pentagon contracts. The Marines expecting armor plating for their Kandahar rotation weren't getting their equipment. The Navy units waiting for hydraulic systems couldn't deploy on schedule. When military units can't deploy because their supplier failed, that doesn't just cost money, it compromises national security. The industry reaction began hitting trade publications by Thursday morning. Titan Defense experiences multi-facility production disruptions, ran in Defense Manufacturing Weekly, followed by more detailed analyses in Pentagon Procurement Quarterly. The articles were diplomatically worded, but the message was clear. Titan was experiencing operational failures that were affecting major military clients. By Friday afternoon, the financial impact was becoming visible. Titan stock had dropped 9% on investor concerns about government contract reliability, while Phoenix Defense shares rose 6% on speculation that Titan's problems would drive Pentagon business elsewhere. But the real damage was in the Pentagon response. Not a phone call or email, a formal notice of contract review citing reliability concerns in defense supplier operations. When the Department of Defense questions your ability to deliver critical military equipment, you don't just lose money. You lose security clearances that took decades to establish. The Pentagon's language was precise and devastating. Recent operational disruptions have raised concerns about Titan Defense Systems' ability to meet critical delivery schedules for deployed military units. A comprehensive review of contractor reliability standards will be implemented pending resolution of current performance issues. That wasn't corporate speak. That was the Pentagon's way of saying they were considering terminating contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars because they couldn't trust Titan to deliver equipment when soldiers' lives depended on it. Meanwhile, my phone had been ringing since Thursday with calls from competitors who'd heard through Pentagon channels that I was no longer with Titan. Defense manufacturing is a small community, and news travels fast when someone with my operational track record becomes suddenly available to the competition. The call I'd been expecting came the following Tuesday afternoon, not from Colton Pierce, but from Titan's board chairman, Hunter Davis. Braden, I'm calling about a potential consulting arrangement to help address some operational challenges we're experiencing. What kind of challenges, Mr. Davis? Multi-facility coordination issues that have affected our Pentagon contract performance. The board believes your expertise could help stabilize our operations. 7 days of production failures that had cost millions in lost revenue and compromised relationships with military units that needed reliable equipment suppliers. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not available for consulting work. Not available? Braden, we're prepared to offer significant compensation for emergency operational support. I'm not available because I start as Chief Operations Officer at Phoenix Defense next Monday. They're building exactly the kind of operation I always envisioned. Proper coordination between facilities, comprehensive Pentagon relationships, and leadership that understands operational excellence requires investment in the people who create it. The silence on Hunter's end told me everything I needed to know. Phoenix Defense was about to become a major threat to Titan's market position, and they just handed me every piece of intelligence I needed to make that happen. Braden, what would it take to bring you back to Titan? I looked out my kitchen window at the morning traffic, thinking about the 15 years I'd spent building systems that Colton Pierce had destroyed with a single midnight phone call during my daughter's birthday party. Mr. Davis, it would take competent leadership that understands the difference between cutting costs and cutting capabilities. Phoenix offers that. Titan apparently doesn't. My first day at Phoenix Defense was everything I'd hoped Titan could become. CEO Morgan Phillips walked me through their facilities personally, asking detailed questions about equipment protocols and supplier relationships. She understood that operations weren't overhead to be minimized, but competitive advantage to be maximized. "Braden," she said, "as we reviewed their expansion plans, we hired you because you understand something most executives don't. Operational expertise isn't a cost center, it's profit generation. Every day your systems run smoothly is another day we're beating competitors who don't get it." That conversation never would have happened at Titan under Colton Pierce's leadership. Phoenix gave me resources I'd never had at Titan: budget approval for preventive maintenance programs, authority to hire experienced technicians instead of lowest bid contractors, and management that asked, "What do you need?" instead of "How much can we cut?" Within 90 days, we'd implemented coordination systems I'd always wanted to try but never had authorization for. Real-time communication networks between our 4 facilities, integrated quality control protocols, and supplier relationships built on reliability rather than lowest cost. The result was 93% operational efficiency across all locations, generating $1.2 billion in annual Pentagon contracts. 6 months later, Phoenix won the contract for the Marine Corps' new Armored Vehicle Upgrade Program, a $480 million deal that Titan had been positioned to win before their operational reliability became questionable. I was in the briefing room when the Pentagon procurement officer explained their decision. Phoenix demonstrated operational stability and institutional knowledge that military contracts require. Recent industry developments have made us more selective about supplier reliability. Recent industry developments. He was talking about Titan's collapse without mentioning them by name. The vindication came in multiple forms over the next year. Defense Manufacturing Quarterly featured Phoenix's success story in a cover article titled "Operations Excellence: How Institutional Knowledge Drives Competitive Advantage." The case study specifically contrasted Phoenix's approach with companies that had eliminated operational expertise for short-term cost savings. Industry conferences started inviting me as a keynote speaker. The Defense Manufacturing Excellence Conference asked me to present on building sustainable operations in complex military supply chains. My presentation drew the largest audience of the conference, filled with executives who wanted to understand how to value and retain operational expertise. During the Q&A session, someone asked about companies that eliminate experienced operations managers for cost reduction. I gave them the honest answer. You can't digitize institutional knowledge. You can document processes, but you can't replicate the judgment that comes from 18 years of solving problems that don't appear in any manual. When you eliminate that expertise, you're not streamlining operations. You're gambling with your entire business. And in defense manufacturing, you're gambling with the lives of service members who depend on reliable equipment. The business school case study came 18 months later. Harvard Business School contacted me about developing a case study based on Titan's operational collapse. The case, titled "The Birthday Termination: How Operational Expertise Became Competitive Advantage," became required reading in several MBA programs focusing on manufacturing management. Students would analyze the decision-making process that led to eliminating operational oversight during active production runs, then study how Phoenix capitalized on their competitors' mistakes. The lesson was clear: operational expertise isn't overhead, it's the foundation everything else depends on. Meanwhile, Colton Pierce's situation at Titan was deteriorating rapidly. Unable to restore coordination between their facilities, Titan was forced to bring in emergency consulting teams at costs that exceeded my annual salary within 6 weeks. The consultants were competent but expensive, and more importantly, they were temporary. Every solution they implemented required ongoing maintenance and optimization that Titan no longer had the internal expertise to provide. The final blow came when ExxonMobil, one of Titan's largest civilian clients, issued a formal notice of contract review citing reliability concerns in supplier operations. When major oil companies start questioning your ability to deliver critical equipment, word spreads quickly through industrial supply chains. 2 years later, Titan Defense Systems was acquired by a Norwegian defense company for 35% below their peak valuation. Industry analysts specifically cited operational instability and loss of institutional knowledge as key factors that had weakened the company's market position. The acquisition announcement included a telling detail. The new owner's first priority was rebuilding operational expertise and supplier relationships that had been compromised during recent organizational transitions. Colton Pierce never recovered professionally. After the acquisition, He spent 8 months in consulting before taking a significantly reduced role at a mid-tier manufacturing company that specialized in civilian industrial equipment, a far cry from the high-stakes defense contracts he'd mismanaged at Titan. Industry colleagues later told me Colton had become obsessed with operational documentation and knowledge retention protocols, lessons learned too late and too expensively. When Phoenix went public 30 months after I joined, my stock options were worth $650,000. More importantly, we'd created sustainable operations that could grow without sacrificing reliability. The IPO prospectus specifically highlighted our operational excellence as a key competitive advantage, citing 93% efficiency rates and 0 Pentagon contract violations under my leadership. But the real satisfaction came from building something that would last. At Phoenix, we didn't just document processes, we documented the reasoning behind them. We created training programs that taught new employees not just what to do, but why specific protocols existed, and what happens when you deviate from them. That's the difference between institutional knowledge and digital transformation. One builds on experience, the other hopes to replace it. 3 years after leaving Titan, I received an unexpected contact, not from Colton Pierce, but from a congressional subcommittee investigating defense contractor reliability. They wanted me to testify about operational expertise in military supply chains. The hearing room was packed with defense industry executives, Pentagon procurement officers, and manufacturing specialists. When the committee chairman asked about companies that eliminate experienced operations personnel for cost reduction, I gave them the same answer I'd been giving at industry conferences. Senators, you can't optimize military supply chains with algorithms that don't understand military requirements. When you fire the people who know how to coordinate complex operations under pressure, you're not improving efficiency. You're creating vulnerabilities that can compromise mission readiness. The questioning went on for 2 hours. They asked about training programs, knowledge transfer protocols, and succession planning. But the most important question came from Senator Williams of Michigan, whose district included thousands of defense manufacturing jobs. Mr. Reynolds, in your professional opinion, what's the biggest threat to American defense manufacturing capability? The biggest threat isn't foreign competition or technology gaps, Senator. It's the corporate mentality that treats operational expertise as overhead instead of strategic advantage. When American companies eliminate the people who understand how to build military equipment reliably, they're handing competitive advantages to foreign suppliers who invest in long-term operational capabilities. 6 months later, the Pentagon implemented new contractor evaluation criteria that weighted operational stability and institutional knowledge alongside cost considerations. The policy change didn't mention Titan by name, but industry analysts understood the message. Defense contractors who couldn't demonstrate operational reliability would lose access to military contracts. Today, I'm still Chief Operations Officer at Phoenix Defense, overseeing 6 facilities that generate $1.8 billion in annual military contracts. We've secured college funds for both daughters. Paige graduated from Michigan State with an engineering degree and now works in our quality control division, while Brooke is starting her sophomore year at Notre Dame studying business administration. Casey and I bought a lake house in northern Michigan where we spend weekends fishing and talking about everything except work. After 25 years of marriage and watching her support my career through military deployments and corporate politics, she deserves a husband who knows when to turn off the operational awareness and just enjoy family time. Sometimes I think about that Tuesday night when Colton Pierce called during Brooke's birthday party. She's 17 now, getting ready for college applications, and when she asks about major life decisions, I tell her what that night taught me. Never let someone else define your value, especially when they don't understand what you actually do. The foundation I built at Phoenix will outlast the executives who understand its importance, because we've created systems that teach people not just how to do the job, but why the job matters. Every hydraulic system that works properly in a combat zone, every armor plating that protects American soldiers, every piece of equipment that performs as designed when lives depend on it, that's the real measurement of operational success. We keep one memento from my Titan years hanging in the Phoenix Operations Center, the final quarterly efficiency report showing 93% operational performance, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that expertise isn't overhead, it's the foundation everything else depends on. Titan Defense Systems was eventually broken up and sold to foreign investors, with their Detroit facilities converted to civilian manufacturing. The Norwegian company that bought their assets spent $140 million trying to rebuild the operational capabilities that Colton Pierce had eliminated for digital transformation savings. The former Titan Warren facility now produces automotive parts for European car companies. The Sterling Heights plant was converted to consumer electronics manufacturing. Detroit, Maine was demolished and turned into a logistics warehouse for Amazon deliveries. 15 years of defense manufacturing expertise scattered to the wind because a 29-year-old MBA thought algorithms could replace institutional knowledge. But Phoenix kept growing. We opened 2 new facilities in Ohio, hired 340 new employees, and won contracts for Navy shipbuilding components and Air Force maintenance equipment. American workers building American military hardware with the operational excellence that comes from understanding that some things can't be digitized or automated. They require experience, judgment, and the kind of institutional knowledge that takes decades to develop. The phone calls from former Titan employees started coming about 6 months after I left. Plant supervisors, quality control specialists, equipment technicians, experienced people who'd watched their company collapse and wanted to work somewhere that valued what they knew. Phoenix hired 18 former Titan employees over 2 years, bringing their knowledge and experience to an operation that understood their worth. Sometimes the most expensive business education comes from learning that military logistics can't be optimized by people who've never worn the uniform or understood what happens when equipment fails in combat zones. Colton Pierce taught me that operational expertise can't be eliminated and then rented back when convenient. They fired me to modernize defense manufacturing through digital transformation. Instead, they learned that some operations require experience to understand, and some expertise takes decades to develop. The lesson cost them $850 million in operational capability, hundreds of American jobs, and Pentagon relationships that had taken 15 years to build. But it was invaluable education for everyone who learned that eliminating operational expertise doesn't optimize anything. It just ensures that your competitors will profit from the military contracts you can no longer manage reliably. And sometimes, that's exactly the education the market needs to provide. In the end, they didn't fire me for being wrong about operations. They fired me for being right about what they couldn't afford to lose. The most dangerous employee isn't the one who makes mistakes. It's the one who prevents disasters you never see coming.